events and and to coordinate promotion and attract possible grants. The effort failed because it would have required the creation of a governmental body, something we opposed. The formation of a cultural alliance, the private initiative, is encouraging, and we applaud the goals of the new organization. Of course, we would hope ever, as a group of many private and some public organizations, they would keep their business in the sunlight if residents are to take an active interest in their progress. Also, the several groups, including the Fitchburg Art Museum, New Players Theater Guild, community concerts, the public library, Fitchburg State College, and others, while working to accommodate each other regarding promotion and scheduling, should also encourage the work and formation of new groups. This area is wealthy in entertainment and arts, but we are of the opinion there is room for much more in the way of arts, music, and cultural entertainment. The long-established cultural organizations of our area have an obligation to foster and advise smaller groups or groups that have not yet formed in their struggle to congeal and grow in the area. So that was what they thought 25 years ago. And I think I've had similar conversations about what we need in the city now. So, but it is interesting that they recognized it then. And I think my next, yeah. So yes, the founding members, you might recognize some of these places. Some are gone. Stratton's legal name is the Amateur Workshop. And I will say, as I've gone back, Stratton had a very heavy hand at the beginning, thanks to Janet Cragen. Christ Church, which used to have a world-renowned choir, the museum, the historical society, the library, the then college, and in the 80s, the college rep actually was the president for a long time, and High Tour Theater, which was a rep theater, a summer rep theater, I believe, up near where you live, Sharon. It's somewhere up in the Pearl Hill. Yes.
Are you sharing the screen?
Yes. Yes. Oh. You know what?
Can those of you online see the presentation? Because we're showing it. We're sharing it. Oh, Amy, can you hear?
Sure, we can.
No, you're muted. We can see you speaking.
I can hear just for the next like 20 minutes. I'm not going to be looking at my screen just because it's not safe, and then I'll be able to park and join.
Yeah, that's
But I
fine.
can hear really good, and that's awesome.
Okay. No, can you see the presentation?
I see a, no, not really. I'm looking at, it looks like, typewriter, font or type. That's all I see.
Yeah, that was the first slide, so it's not progressing.
Okay. Then that's all I saw was the first slide.
Okay.
I was enjoying the audio though, you know.
Oh, no, we're trying to adjust it. Okay.
I can hear it. It seems great. And, gives me a chance to straighten out some paperwork while I listen.
So anyway, now you can see, so these are our founding members. And some of them exist in a different form, like the Northern Lights First Parish Church is still one of our members. And like I said, Stratton is still very much a part of it. And the Montechusett Community Concerts, I've never heard of before. Well, I've heard of in this, but I'm learning more about different stuff. I would think it was an actual concert group. Yeah.
Right.
So yes, so that's where we started at. And so this is what it kind of looks like in the 70s. So it's kind of progressed from the 70s, 80s. And through the decades, they did try to address some of those questions. That they had a community calendar, which before the internet was an actual printed calendar. They did a yearly festival, in fact, in September in the early 80s. I can't remember who the mayor was at that point, but he actually declared September Arts and Culture Month. And the Janet, and I think it was Arthur Kistler, who was the director of the library, had a big festival every September in the library, and it with a very strong focus on the arts, because Janet was a teacher. Yeah, but there was also, they had a local theater competition, they had a local music competition. So it was a way to try to get people to come to, not just to celebrate the arts, but get people to come to Fitchburg and see this is where arts were celebrated. So moving along, we've done, this is my next one. Oh, we're in 24, I guess I haven't built it, and then so we've had all these programs, and then in 2008, they opened Goldstone Studios, which was a block away down the street, and that was kind of the first time the Alliance had a physical space. Up until that point, the Alliance would meet at the various locations, so there will be one board meeting at the Historical Society, there would be another one at the library, and it would rotate, and it was, as much as it was a group of organizations, I've gone through some of the minutes, I realized it was also a group of friends. And so I think what I've recognized is I'm trying to piece together the history of the Alliance as this people moved away or passed away. Some of these relationships kind of disintegrated and we kind of lost some of that original momentum. But that said, it transitioned into something like Goldstone Studios, which was a different iteration of this. It was more like an actual gallery, and they had and they would have regular artist programs, but they also would work with the Johnsonia, which was pretty much across the street. And it was a very robust visual art focused organization. And then it kind of transitioned into music for a little bit. And then when I came along in 2018, things were kind of they lost their momentum a little bit. And then in 2019, and we have Thomas here, we had the Fitchburg Arts Collective that came together with this opportunity for mass development and put together the idea of affordable studio space, which was a concept. Oh, I didn't talk about the difference from the cultural.
That's the next slide.
Oh, it is the next. Oh, I guess I moved that slide by mistake. Okay. I'm all over the place today. So if you want to stop and have a question, let me know. So can we just skip to that?
Yeah, of course.
So I did want to differentiate between us and the council. So our origin story is the same. So even though they came together for this, the catalyzing events was that there was a big arts lottery grant in the late 70s. And all these organizations that created the Fitchburg Cultural Alliance wanted to have the control over the funds that the state was releasing. And this is something I didn't know, or maybe I did know, but I was a toddler and I didn't pay attention to this, that the lottery, I don't know if it was the entire lottery, but a big chunk of the lottery used to fund the arts. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So the state began to take the fund for it. The cultural pictures were born and from
Yes, yes. So my thing is that happened in the late 90s, and that in the 70s, that arts lottery was more that individual towns applied for the arts lottery money, and not everybody had their own organization. Fitchburg took the initiative to make sure that they had that the museum, the library, and the historical society wanted to make sure that they could decide how the money was spent, not the mayor.
right, but it was
Yeah.
no, it wasn't going to the county.
Yes, so, but I am trying to find the chronology, but the Alliance was born out of the original arts lottery, and then when they transitioned, because the lottery made so much. Then they established on individual, every town had a. And it's trying to,
Every town does.
yeah, I think there's a couple that have like smaller towns, so they have like a regional.
Yeah, very few of them, but
Yeah.
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 Some are regional.
So our our name is, but our name came first, unfortunately. But I think because the state mandated everybody is a cultural council, and it is confusing, and the origin story is the same, but I think because they had the Arts Lottery money in the beginning, and then these organizations came with their own initiatives to kind of build it, and it is a private. The main difference between us is that we are a private nonprofit, and the Cultural Council is a department of the city. And
Board.
a board,
Board.
yes. And so we have an endowment, we have a board of trustees, and now we have staff. Okay. I think does that make sense? It makes sense and it doesn't make sense. We're similar but different. And that is a challenge and something we're thinking about as we're going forward, because there, especially now with the Fitchburg Arts Community, have one more an acronym and one more F and a C and an A. And we also, I'm encouraged by what I found out with our original and we do have members who are in Leominster and Gardner, and we've had Princeton. So we are, as we're looking forward, which I will get to in a minute, we are looking more Massachusetts and less strictly Fitchburg. But that said, in 2024, with all these things I've just thrown out there, the key pieces that we focus on, we have Main Street Studios, which is the consequence of the Fitchburg Arts Collective coming together with this plan, and you were the fiscal agents, and then we stepped in when we needed some extra people, and we were able to bring it in when the university made the space available. We were able to bring it to the next step. Yes,
Sorry, lost a little bit.
of course, I understand.
Which is we, for the cultural alliance or the cultural council? When you say
The
we,
culture, I would talk about I am not in the cultural council anymore, please.
so we,
It's the alliance. I'm not talking about the cultural council. It is confusing because Joe is on both.
Yes.
But I am not on the. And like, yes. But yeah, if I'm speaking in first person, it's.
I think there'll be another meeting.
Yes.
April 17th.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're doing a public hearing.
Yes. So. Well, that's where, so we have. Yeah.
Part of the story.
Okay. I don't, that's a good question. Noel, can you hear people talking in the?
You're muted.
Jesse, I hear you just fine, and the other conversations, they kind of fade in and out, but it's like a trip down memory lane for me.
Oh. Oh.
Yeah. No, I remember all those people. You know, if I was Hal, I would have anecdote after anecdote for you.
Well, he could show up. I know they're in tech week, but he could stop by for pizza. So,
Uh-huh. But you know, I remember going to the FCC meetings, and they were dragged out to about 3 o'clock in the morning. You had to show up if you were you had to present for your grants, and they were trying to develop a slush fund. Tim's, what was the name associated with the library? Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Yeah,
we hear you know, we're trying to understand the question. There was a group associated with the library?
The fellow who was his name was mentioned earlier, but I couldn't get to a pen.
Arthur
Yes,
Kissler?
Kessler, yes. So Kessler and Tim's and
yeah,
I forget the name of the fellow who did High Tour, and of course the famous Leonard Gaskin. They pretty much ran the show. And those of us that were in, we had to fight our way through the door to get allocations.
I'll see.
It was summer day.
What was that?
Larry Casassa, did he work for the city too?
He did.
I thought he was associated with the library. I thought he ran the library.
Arthur Kissler.
Right, yes.
I wasn't here. So, yeah, right.
It was
But
awesome.
that said, I think what I've learned going through the history, there are a lot of people, just as we are in this room, there are a lot of people who did a lot of, saying a lot. And as I'm trying to think of when we are building the picture of our community, I don't want to lose what they've done. And I sometimes I feel like we have these conversations and we're trying to keep at the wheel. And sometimes we need to, but they've learned a lot of lessons. And I think we can take a lot from some of the mistakes they made, but also a lot of the successes they've had.
Right.
And yes, and I do, you mentioned Peter Timms, and I do need to give him a lot of credit. It is because of Peter Timms, who is the former director of the Art Museum. He was the one who took the Alliance from being a small volunteer organization to its own nonprofit. He's the one who established our endowment, who got us certified as a 501c3. His name is all over our paperwork. And he also, even though he was the director, he would come and he would organize art exhibitions. He was very active in getting some of the festivals going. So when we were doing our 45th mentioned, told me stories about the things he did. So yes, Peter Timms is definitely, we would not be here without him or Janet or Jennifer. I think they're three of our big people. And we have, luckily, we now have a Hall of Fame where we can honor people like that. So yes, speaking of 2024, so what we are in 2024 is we are Main Street Studios, so we are this space. We have affordable workspace. Shara is one of our artists here, but we're also a meeting space where we can gather here. We have activities, everything from we're doing Broadway karaoke on Friday night, please come. We have workshops on first Thursdays. We've had dance classes. We've had steward meetings. We've had civic ambassador stewards. So the space has some quirks and limitations, but we try to make it as useful as we can. We've had pop-up markets on Sundays. So that's our physical space, but if I want to boil down to some of the other things we do, we still continue with that original purpose of wanting to connect our members to each other. And I really am hoping to dig into the whole connecting to audiences, because it's great that we do all this stuff, but we want people to come see it. So you see these magazines we have all around here. We have the Directory of Arts and Culture, which is something Jennifer started before she stepped down. But we also actively promote our members and through our social media and through our email blasts. I think, what's next? What's the next slide?
There's some photos next.
I mentioned Janet Cragen's name quite a bit, and this is our next big event. It'll be taking place on May 28th. And if anybody's interested, it will be at the Senior Center. This was actually started before we named it after Janet, but the idea was they believe very much, when you graduate from high school, you get given awards and encouraged to drill into the arts. But Janet was of the mind that we need to cultivate that in middle school. And so she started this Youth Art Award, and that's every year we honor from the middle schools 2 students from each grade. And I'm sure your daughter was one of them. Yes, they're celebrated for their excellence in visual art, music, theater, and literary arts, and they're nominated by their teachers. And they get recognition. The mayor usually comes, and it's just and the families come. It's actually, and like I said, that was the event that turned me on to the Alliance, because it was very heartfelt, very genuine, and it showed me that the arts are here. We're building the community, but the community is in our public schools, and there are kids who are just so excited about getting up there and singing and drawing, and And they're so proud of their art and the fact that we crammed them all in this for last year, which we're not gonna do this year because there were so many. But that they could be proud of their art and be celebrated for their art, I think was just an incredible thing. So we're doing that on May 28th, and we keep doing that. And Janet Cragen, it was named after Janet when she stepped down. For 1 year, she was here to see it, and then she passed. This will be the 10th anniversary of her passing. And the award has been in her name ever since. And Sally comes every year with clippings of spider plants from one of Janet's plants that she gives to the kids. We have some babies still growing in the window. And then I mentioned the directory. So we do promote all our members, but it's also a chance for us to tell stories, because that's the other thing that I like to tell stories, even though my story tonight is all over the place. But it's a way of telling the story of the arts, not just in Fitchburg, but throughout the region. And then this is also a reason for me to use the Cultural Council. The Cultural Council used to manage Fitchburg Open Studios, and it became one of our projects last year. And this year, we're doing it, but we're also going to be partnering with Ashburn Ham Cultural Alliance and to really kind of broaden that whole Montechusett theme to get Fitchburg's Open Studios to be broader and bigger. And that's how I never heard it. Or Heather opened up this. And then there's this Main Street Studios and our awesome interns from the summer. And we have interns. Yes, just another kind of temporary. Oh, sure. These are I literally took my PowerPoint for annual meetings, so you can see some of the different programs we've had here. The Thirds and Consort performed here.
Yay.
Stewards. We had an open mic with the Fitchburg High School. They came in here and in this room, and it was a poetry night. Although we had some music. And then we also participate in events on Main Street, like Civic Days, and we had a lot of pumpkins last October. Yes, a lot of pumpkins that I think both Sharon was out there painting and Thomas and Joe were out there hauling them from the back lot. So yeah,
A lot of exercise.
yeah, I think we had it. I think
twice.
we had like 500 pumpkins, so
So.
we didn't use all the pumpkins. But it'll be interesting to see what you. Oh, right.
There were many that, just for their own use, but then there were several that decorated, and took them with them after, or they decorated and left them on the table. Yeah.
I mean, being on Main Street is also just, it's been, for me, it's made me see the city a little different. Because people are literally walking up and down the street, especially now that the weather's nice and they're going to Rise and Grind or the Palmer's Pantry. If our doors open, people will walk in and check us out and talk to us. So yeah, so that's who we are. But this is also my opportunity to pitch who we are and how to get more involved, because while I say this is who we are, but also we are a 45-year-old organization, but we are also kind of rebuilding. So while I want to be true to our tradition of promoting our artists and connecting artists and having these events, it's also we are a community, and while I'm the staff person, we have a board, it is a member organization. And this year we did work to change our bylaws so that it isn't just the institutional members. We wanted to open up the alliance to be anybody who wants to join. You can be an individual artist, but you don't even have to be an art. I mean, although I don't think you have to be, if you want to be an artist, nobody's gonna judge you as to what art is, but if you just like art and you want to be a member, we've been encouraged to become a member. And there's so many reasons to become a member. You're supporting us, but we'll put you in our directory. You can be part of Open Studios, but this is a place where we encourage you to come here, have a conversation. And some of the best things I talked about the events, but I think some of my favorite times have just been when we've gotten stuck here late at night and we've had random conversations and actually, my favorite, it is the day we took the picture for our directory, but we had and Liz, I think you were here for some of that. When it was Ellen, we were all sitting out there and it was like Ellen DiGeronimo and one of our interns, we were just all sitting talking about all sorts of things. So it's the art of conversation and connecting as much as it is about the art that's on our wall or on this. I encourage you to remember, we like any other organization, well, any other, but like many organizations, you can become a member at different levels and we'll give you different benefits. My favorite is, which is becoming more popular since the pandemic, but a lot of organizations do the little gold sticker where you can get into free galleries and museums all over North America. So we do offer that here and just it's a way to have fun. Yes,
What's it? No thing like in reciprocal?
yes, that,
Accommodates.
well,
So it's not on. It's four people.
Frank,
So,
okay, very good use of it. So, the NARM, it's a North American Reciprocal.
So it's in any museum that participates.
Yeah. Yeah, the MFA used to be a part, but they withdrew, but within Massachusetts, you can go to Clark, you can go to but also the Icon Museum and Fitchburg Museum. But what I would say, and then what it used to just be art museums, but yeah, now some of the trustees are on there, and then like we'll start like after the pandemic, Ulster Village joins. It became more popular after the pandemic, and it's a good way. And it actually, I think it helps to support the other reciprocal places, because you might not pay admission, but I've done that, like, oh, well, I didn't pay admission, so I think I'll spend $50 in the gift shop. Yeah. So, or you're paying for parking, but it's definitely a very good benefit, and it's a good way to discover some hidden treasures. Oh, yeah? Yeah?
There are over 1,000 places you can use your non-membership, yeah, it's just a little different.
Yes. And so membership, and then I also encourage you, if you just want to get your toe wet and learn more about us, more than what I've just viewed tonight, my random thoughts. These are our big events that are coming up this year, and I encourage you to participate in one or all. Like I said, we have the Jenna Cragen Awards on Tuesday, May 28th. That'll be at the Senior Center. My favorites, when we have our next Creative Hall of Fame celebration, this is our follow-up to the anniversary. We are doing a Broadway ball this year. I want to celebrate the theater arts, and I will probably announce our honorees in a month or two. But we want to celebrate. Two of our founding members were theaters, Stratton and Hightor, but new players. There was new players. And over the years, there's been the Forge Theater Company. There was another theater company at Christchurch. Like I think between the public schools and the college, and there have been various theaters throughout Fitchburg's last half of the century. But that said, Stratton and new players have been around. So, and we will probably have something like our Broadway character. You can dress up as your favorite character. It'll be fun, and we'll have Finicky Fork's already committed to theater. And then Fitchburg Open Studios, we are moving to October, based on something because we don't want to clash with Ashburnham's Arts Festival. Yeah.
I heard there was a lot I heard from the Ashburnham side, but there's problems.
Yeah, but we're very excited to have Creative Connections and the new genre as part of it. Yeah. Yes. That's cool. That's why we're here. Yeah. So. grants and this, I am very proud of the fact that I've worked in events for half my life, if not more, and we've made money on our first, and it's hard, the first time you do it at events to make money, and we made $8,000 less, November, so.
That question for those at home.
Oh, sure. So, Susan wants to know where our revenue came from, and so it is membership, it's grants, rent for the studios, and also now our annual fundraiser is very important. And also we do some ad sales and registration fees for open studios and the directory. Yes,
You guys still having it down?
yes. I mean, it's not huge, but it's enough to, it's a good, it's,
Like a rainy day fund?
yeah, sure. It helps, yeah, it helps,
Sprinkling day.
yeah. I think recently we've done. Hmm? Oh,
Repeat the question.
sure. So her question is, where do our programming ideas generate from? And so I think definitely in the last year and a half, having artists in the studio has helped to come up with some of our ideas, like our first Thursdays. We're actually another program we're having in 2 weeks. If anybody has a closet to clean out, we're doing an art and craft swap. So like stuff that's we kind of come up with her space. I created the Broadway karaoke because as much as I love the fact we have visual arts, I'm a theater person and I wanted to say we're more than just visual art. But I have had members approach us and ask us if we'd be willing to partner with some events, and so I'm pretty open. Yeah, so they come in. We are open to it. I mean, newbies come, we have the art stewards here, but we did civic ambassador stewards. Another one of my favorite programs, Sally Reagan we did a coffee with the editor. He's now since moved on, but that's very cool. Yeah, there was a young editor for the Sentinel and it ended up being the whole staff of the Sentinel, and it was actually very illuminating about the local press and their challenges. But that was a great, she was both a member, but also a city councilor who came to us with this. Third question. So March.
Be next Thursday.
So next Thursday, we're doing the recycle art, which I haven't wrote out, but we're doing a recycle art challenge. So people can come here and either collect some of our recycled materials or but then they can bring them in around Earth Day and we'll put them on display.
A bunch of people.
Yeah.
Like you can make it and if you finish it, leave it there for the show or take it home and finish it and bring it back to the show.
Yes. I know, yes, it's April's taking up on the show with you.
The show is gonna be for Earth Day, right?
Yeah.
So it's about upcycling, it's about, keeping things out of the landfill.
Yes, so I will put
Bring
that
stuff
stuff
along
out tomorrow.
What's that?
We've been doing our gatherings, well, we actually have another event next Thursday, so it'll probably be in the afternoon, it'll be like. We did it 3 to 5 last time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
3:30 to 5:30, but then, coffee pour is coming in here for a second, what are they calling this one, the 404?
Yeah, the 404 was a
Yeah.
redo of Beats on Leap that they did
Yeah.
in February.
It was, which was really, and that's another example of a partner community. Using the space, and actually, I think that they were the ones who moved this town, but I think that was the best. And I think that, that's a lot to do with the fact that, Cheryl used to work, so he knows the space very well. Any other questions? I think mine, oh, just the Broadway ball, the Broadway ball.
So one of the things Jesse had touched on was on the first line of the slide is volunteer. So you don't necessarily have to participate in these events if it's not your thing, but if you want to offer us some assistance, we certainly wouldn't turn you away. Whether that be to help us, distribute flyers or help us set up the room or things, logistical matters for us to make the event successful and reduce the level of stress in organizing it. Would be really helpful.
And it's fun. I hope God's spirit.
Yeah.
There was a lot of camaraderie.
The things that we did so far.
Amy has a question in the chat. Two questions. It says, do you have plans to make any changes to your programming or services to welcome the artists moving?
Open Studios participation is open to anybody who wants to participate. And for the BF Brown residents, anybody can become a member. Yes, we encourage.
I don't know if you said it or not, but the open studio workshops are all free. Right?
Well, there's a
No, not
registration.
the open studio. First Thursday.
First
workshop.
Thursday workshop are free, yeah, but there is a registration fee for Ventura students, but that's to cover the cost of.
Anyone can attend open studios, like go visit the studios that are around here. That's free. But if you wanted to be a creative that hosting folks to come and see your artwork, then there is a registration fee for them.
And certainly, I mean, I hope, in 2025, 2024. But I hope. To collaborate with BF Browns, we have. Because, Open Studios has had different sites, whether it's people opening up their home studios or, whether, I know Goldstone Church has been a site, we were a site for people who don't want to have their studios. Parish has been a site, so there are places that people don't want people coming into their homes, or if they feel they're way off the beat path and they're not gonna get the foot traffic, they can have a pop-up studio, and I hope that BF Brown Studios, which I know from last week, when we were looking at the renderings, it seems like their studios are all gonna be concentrated in that room anyway, so.
Yeah.
So that makes sense. Yeah.
Question here, we don't know.
I haven't thought that far, but I mean, I certainly don't want to be unwelcome. Yes.
Has there been any discussion between the developers and the cultural alliance with respect to when the tenants come in and they're artists and
No, no, but we're open to it.
My question is there going to be or a structure like welcoming, inviting, once they're organized and they have a tenants association of sorts? Will you invite a representative into the board or something like that?
I mean, I think yes, I think if there's an organized group, but I also hope that all the individual artists will become members. And honestly, my hope is, I like my job, but I don't wanna be here forever, so I would love for, I would love if there was an artist who was good, you know, that we could grow their leadership and maybe maybe we grew enough that we had a second staff person, or, that there's this opportunity for them to join the board and have board leadership and just, I think this organization, as we are transitioning from our history and becoming something new, I think it's an opportunity that's right for you. Whether it's new people coming in, but I also wanna, remind people that we want people who are already artists here, who I hope are already part of our alliance, moving in there. So it goes both ways, that it's whether we're welcoming people or also helping to encourage people we already know to be part of that. Okay.
I have a super quick question. Do you happen to know whether it's allowed for people to choose to participate in open studios?
There isn't one yet, but there. It was because we last year we transitioned from doing an elaborate virtual map, and that was based on, but I think. And it was also to allow for summer vacations, but I think we're actually going back to the date it first was, or the weekend that it was when Open Studios started like 6 or 7 years ago. The third weekend, anyway. So that timeline, but it will probably be the end of the summer to allow for people, yeah. No, I'm not giving a specific date, but I think that's what we're doing. Oh, sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think we would absolutely reach out to you guys for that, because that's a natural. Because especially if, we use one of the churches and we want people to go down, and they go to the museum. And older, it's just a nice box for them to get a lot of. So like last year, we didn't end up using all the ones, but we had First Parish and Christ Church available, in the museum available, so we just kind of. I get what the basic mechanics of it are and try to assess based on do they need a lot of wall, because if you go to the museum, you're dealing with temporary walls. And maybe a table. Then again, if you're here and you're popping up in this space, there's not necessarily a lot of wall space. So it's just, but like Thomas popped up here and you didn't have, you made use of the counter because you had 3-dimensional pieces and.
So, yeah, I think we're just trying to say a lot of it based on what the needs of the artists are, but they've always sort of connected.
You were here, but you weren't in.
Oh, I was here, but it was before we were all moved in.
Yeah.
And then last year I was at the studios. But yeah, it's. There's a lot of flex on that, I think, and just. Goldstone Church, and then, and they were a large group of people, and then. Weren't as many of them participating, so they didn't go to the church, but I think, I don't remember where they went.
We had Helen here.
Right.
And I can't remember if I know 1 year somebody was up at First Parish, but I don't know if it was in practice or anything. But
Yeah, no, it's certainly, ideally, I think having people spread all over downtown was really good, because it encourages people to walk through all of Fitchburg and see Fitchburg, and there's a lot of public art here too.
And honestly, having more people, if Gallery Marquis or yourself are interested in being part of the planning, because I think the more. Less work, but it's also if we can coordinate with, and I want to coordinate too with the restaurants and see if. I mean, I know like Topper's Pantry wasn't open on the weekend, so. But yeah, we could also just give people incentives to walk down Main Street if they know they can get a coffee at one end and then. Go get lunch when they're done walking or something. It's
A couple of years ago, Audrey put together, Audrey from the cultural council. It's online, but basically is all of like the public art in town, and it was like a, find these places, and I
Yeah.
think. It's like making a map, like we did last year, that just sort of shows you where the public art is and where the spaces are and artists are. Like a little treasure hunt, you could have like a little, you even have like a little card, have people get stamps from each of the places. Like there's a few incentives, but it's also just.
sure, yeah. So we did the 45th anniversary last year, to raise money, but also and that was kind of my way to launch a major fundraising event. But also fun, it was community oriented, I think we built the senior center, and so we honored two longtime members, Ellen and Jennifer, and then, we had a dinner and we had some music, Noel performed. And so this year I want to mix it up a little bit and give it more of a Broadway theme. And so we'll probably have some more Broadway related performances, but we're going to honor some other longtime members and maybe an organization that's turning 100 next year. Hint, hint, wink, wink. So, yes. Yeah. A founding organization, but yes, so that's, but the idea, it's just a fun night, it's meant to be fun, like I want, as cheesy as it is, but I believe it, that the FUN part of fundraiser should really exist, and, yeah, I think, and we had a really good meal too, so, but, and I've worked with Dawn since she started as the caterer here in Fitchburg, and I know she'll run with my idea for themes, so I think we can have some fun food. Yeah, that is, yeah. Yeah, she's already said, oh, we do something 1920s Broadway. Like, okay, and so I guess, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it is, and yeah, and so it's just kind of a nice night to come together, raise some money, and like I said, this year the theme is Broadway, so. Fun is important. It's really important. It's, yeah. Well, I think especially we're in the arts. I think it can be very easy as we're talking about creative economy and development to get like art has to be good for you and art is gonna do this. It's like the medicine we all need, but it's meant to be fun, right? That's why we do it. All right. Any other comments, questions? Joe, do you have anything else to add that I might have left off?
Oh, no, you were pretty thorough. We were on Barbara and you at BTV yesterday and uncovered everything that Jesse just went over. We did that in 15 minutes. And we were able to pull it off again in an hour. Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Let's see what other pictures we get.
Oh, that was.
Because I'm sharing.
Well, and then I was gonna do if we wanted to talk a little third places, but.
Oh.
But that said, it's any questions about the Fitchburg Cultural Alliance? Well, yes, I definitely. Well, sure, it's great, yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Sure. It's a mess and I was gone for a whole week. And it's the first time I've been here. So it's not.
We do have one in transition right now, although Robin's got hers locked. But we have, and then Carolyn Ford is back there, and she works a lot with the senior center and, not the ARC. Well, she does work with the ARC, but she also works with another school in Winchendon, and she actually, because her son goes there, frequently brings her son's class in here, and then they did all the stained glass that's behind her with the alcohol inks. So they're adults with developmental delays, and they, yeah. And she also, she did the other thing that's hanging on the wall. She did this whole thing with, basket reeds. They all made these funky sculptures, so Carolyn's very imaginative. Yeah, so she has them.
Sometimes on 2 5-foot squares at the same time, so. Door here where the light switches, and but it's flush so that I can actually put a panel there and not have a problem. I have my portable easel that I use for travel. My big easel is at home. A desk where I'm working on various different projects. Some of my art on the walls. I have my cabinets.
Let's go see Shara's mess.
Hold lots of stuff, and I love the stuff where I sometimes do paperwork or I work with paper.
Did that actually come with the studio? It looks like a thinking.
This was actually here. Well, it was here, then it was out there, then it was here. Yeah, there's most of the rooms had furniture that the bank left. And I love this. I want to take it with me, but it weighs 3 tons.
Yeah.
So I have lots of stuff. I'm always working on a lot of different projects.
Yeah.
A bunch of my paintings on the floor, a bunch of things all over. It's when my face is a mess, it's always a sign that I'm actually working.
Doing something creative,
It usually gets cleaned up for open studios and a few other things, but
I saw sign at somebody's studio door that said, "This mess is a place." I like that.
This mess is a what?
This mess is a place.
I have a refrigerator magnet that says, excuse the mess, we live here. So that's what I feel like.
So where's the sort of price range for renting studios here?
Right, yeah, just like a quick.
So for folks online, everybody's taking a 5-minute break or so.
Yeah.
Thanks for letting me know.
This summer, I was wondering if it's possible to run a studio for the summer, do you have a year lease or have to?
We have different terms, so I literally have one. Thing, so let me, if I give you my card and get, so if you want to look at them when, yeah, because we have one that's relatively, they're of varying sizes, so we have 2 that are. Yeah, let me go get my card. And what's your medium?
I'm doing mixed media. But I'm working on a series of larger pieces for the show, but then at the same time, I have to do all this remodeling stuff, and it's going to make things really difficult. So I'm just like, you know what? It makes so much more sense if I just like moved out of my studio for a while. I'm just going to still work with.
So,
and you have bathrooms here, right?
We do.
So what needs to be done is my bathroom. So it'd be nice to be somewhere.
Yeah, and there's a workstation. Yeah, I mean they're old bank bathrooms, but we should have that.
Without the site.
identified vehicle. We know about the third lake. All right.
Pressure.
Okay.
Refill your glass. Get some grapes or strawberries. On it. So. Yeah, but she only that's all right, so.
Sure, we'll be able to get it.
Yeah.
Also.
Start with space. Okay, so I think.
So.
So good. How long?
Yeah.
You operate? Okay. Okay, so we are.
Jen, yeah.
I'll wait. That's.
Man,
That's perfectly. For you. That's the best. Yeah.
Yeah. Kind of take our history there. Yeah. And just residents and find that. Yeah. So it's probably going to be honest. What show to. Maybe out. So it's like, okay, it's
That's, yeah.
I mean, we did that. Like, 3 years.
Mhm.
I mean, it's actually. You know, trust and.
Oh, no. Wow. Yeah, well, it's improvisation, but a whole other,
Yes, it's, but it's already. Standing.
yes. Now you're back. All right, why don't we can regroup. A little bit. There's still plenty of fruit and cookies and. Everybody's eating their veggies. That's good. All right, so. So I kind of knew that my presentation was being held, but I just thought that I was just hearing some of the things that people were talking about in some of our other conversations, and I know something that comes up here, and one of the things, actually one of the best compliments I got about Main Street Studios was somebody said that they felt like this was their third place, and that's definitely, as much as I talk about all this. I'm talking with my hands. You know, talking about promotion and fundraising. At the end of the day, I think what keeps me here and what attracted me to work first at the museum and then not wanting to leave Fitchburg when I left the museum was that sense of community and finding a way to come together and the idea of a third place. And I think most everybody here knows what it is, but this is the official, and I forget his name, Raymond something. Who's I think so. Yeah, it's either with an O or something. Yes. That it's basically your third place, because your first place would be your home, your second place is your work, and the third place is where. I don't know if anybody knows the Happiness Lab podcast. I love that podcast, and she had an episode called Where Everyone Knows Your Name, and she used Cheers as the best model. And that is your third place. It's a place where you can go, where you meet people, where you have a shared common interest, but it's also what is becoming more and more apparent in this world of technology overload, a place where you can just be with people and but it's also one of those things, it's mental health, but it's also these like intrinsic connections and yeah. Well, that's exactly where I was thinking when this comes up, because in that Happiness Lab podcast, she talks to another guy, the guy who did It's Bowling Alone, and he didn't talk about third places, but he talked about community groups, and that they did a study in the 80s, so it is pre-internet, but that there were very healthy communities in Italy, and that when they were trying to figure out why when they actually had healthy economies and healthy governments, and the root cause they found was choirs. And it wasn't the singing, I mean, it wasn't the music, although I will extol the virtues of music. It was when they would get together and rehearse and have these little sidebar conversations, and that if somebody needed a favor, they knew who to, and it went across class, it went across where you lived, but it's everybody knew your name. So if you needed help with something, you knew who to call. And so, yes, I was thinking very much in your comment, Jessica, about, I mean, will BF Brown be a third place, or what are some of the third places that we already have in Fitchburg? So I like to think, I mean, for some people we are one, but I know for some people we aren't. But we have the library, we do have quite a lot of churches, although a lot of them are getting vacant or being repurposed. We have Rise and Grind, we have the Boulder. But these are just some of the examples. Stratton. Now that you actually have a home. Yeah, the new players. Yeah. So,
For a long time, we had, for a while, we had strong stuff.
Yes.
right? That was big third place.
that was-
Had baby or right before that was child, so it was like a coffee shop.
yeah.
I just heard that. But in the meantime, we have to get coffee shops like any coffee. And that's why it's big. Please. Coffee shows is so good, price in the intermodal. And it's run by the just, and it's 100%
Upside down.
Thank you. Okay.
Okay, upside, I'm really thinking on.
Parking is right in the garage.
Yeah.
Is it a place where we can just hang out and?
Yes.
Yeah.
I would say all three.
And they're all within walking, I mean, if, I think they're all walkable from this.
One is right.
I mean, yeah,
You walk that way, drive around, and kind of down the other end of Main Street is identity and. As is right in the middle, that's true. So, yeah, so they're all walkable from here.
Oh, that. I was going to. Mentioned before, I could do this. Studies. For our labs, which is possible.
really,
So we're playing with ideas like, oh, what kinds of projects, and I mentioned, I came here from Santa Barbara and doctor there, but one of the cool things they had was electric shuttle, so hop on, hop off, kind of, and not the big bus, just a shuttle, just hop on, up and down the main shopping, suite, and, it's like 25 cents, but there was some days when it's really, not farmers market, stuff like that to encourage people to park elsewhere, and then jump on that, speed rate, that's here, we connected from, the museum, off down there, and then going up. That, yeah.
Had a trolley.
Yeah.
It was owned by Mart and,
Yeah. Don't worry about it, then, right? People like Rick meets, do it in our release, in the city initiatives. And then university to museum of it. To museum of office.
I
City council.
I am.
I'm
the executive director of the.
Oh, yeah.
I met a week with my. Like when.
Exactly. And the department is community development and planning, so we do community development, we have planning board, conservation, staff with disability. We apply for grants, we manage the community development block grant program, and we have some affordable housing. And we're funding the DFM, with our affordable housing. And
So things like that, to connect all these coffee shops, you can also connect the university with the downtown in another way, and encourage the students to come down.
anybody else?
There
There you go.
And it was just, just being more. These acres, that's not good right now, it's. But, I mean, driving it.
It's almost a mile long. So it's a unusually long beach compared to other. beaches.
And just dump off, it's.
It's a great idea.
transportation hub. we talked about that probably before, I know that has come up as an idea, even just for some of the events that happen, yeah,
It's for buildings too.
yeah, yeah.
Discussion about like when.
Yeah,
Or especially universities.
Exactly, and then we've actually had that problem, so. College. Anyway.
but under the, I mean, I think but that comes up a lot in conversations. Like we have, and also we've had here, and if we want to establish third places, it's great, but. Having the ability to get there is definitely. That's always a thing. Yeah, and how does what, was it a grant that is allowing the mart to be free?
I believe so. I don't think it's because the mart. And I think they got it
Yeah,
right now, as long as the state is supporting. Right now, if you take the mart bus, it's
At the end of June. State had from the first share of England, I believe, he decided to.
I'm trying to encourage people to take public transportation, so give it to them for free. Hopefully they like it and then they'll wanna. They use it.
Right.
Yeah.
They are working, they have 7 shelters, so they. They should. They got 7 blocks to put out, so. That's part of the campaign, but they work on a limited budget and ensure that they don't have a big.
I
right,
think they're aware that one of bus stops we started besides intermodal. The only places and they and.
Except for the like dial ride kind of shuttles that are for different. That's why like a trolley is great, because that's sort of that kind of mid-size.
So, but I don't know about this weather, but I. Stop. Oh. It's open, so you just like, oh, that would bother me. This will be hard to consider. Oh, San Francisco. Oh, this, yeah, we can do, and we can make it narrow. Like block. And then, like, over the last few years, we've adjusted so quickly back to it, but last summer, it was only last summer, well, summer before, that both Boulder Drive and Main Street were turned back to two-way traffic. They both received. Zero. We're supposed to go on.
but is that a third space? Could that be that street, an outdoor third space?
I don't know, I think Mill Street was meant to be more.
Some. Mill Street is a little bit of a longer run, so business. And
Oh, no,
space to
area.
put seating, so. we Struggle, but it's not, I like what we've done with it, and the mural is amazing, but originally, we thought that the sidewalk at the end would be wider. And that we'd be able to have tables and chairs there that both tacos, tequilas and. Share that sidewalk to have the tables out. It didn't end up being as. As.
Yeah, it's a weird street. Or it's a remnant of the street.
It's a room.
Right.
Yeah,
It was very near the same.
yeah.
People often went the wrong way, but. After they put the steps there and to me, you know, and I had already started painting that mural. Somebody drove by to try with them. And they went.
For you. Everyone's straight.
In that,
Straight down.
Never went that way.
Thomas. You wanna think-
battling.
That's, yeah, that happens. Thomas, you have something to share.
Yeah. Think more into sources, like things similar to bulletin board that's up higher. Or I've seen things like bike repair stations in other cities and so on, things like that. Maybe more trees.
And a big glass awning so that it's also a place to connect with things.
Oh, like a shelter, yeah.
Yeah,
Where?
I mean, what those were century galleries, shopping mall, they have a good indoor roots.
Oh, yeah.
Down the glass.
Well, the bigger challenge is that you can't make anything level, but so like you have the awning, but. You couldn't put- do the lights.
But it's like,
But
could there be a
somebody paid
sign?
tax.
But like, I mean, yeah, is there a way to get signage there or a map or? Like what Audrey has at the top, I'm saying that. I don't know, is that what you were thinking?
There's already, there's like these the blocks that are.
Yeah, that's another one. But. So you have to figure out how to get people.
Talking, we're putting about one of the. Having. But it is a really steep hill.
But it isn't the, I mean, isn't there an idea too to have that space and then invite people to go across the street and go over to Riverfront Park and.
There was a dream
Yeah.
to actually have, girl on Fishing Street continue across the street. And into.
I mean, parks are places, right? So they're,
Yes, you're ready to get state.
Yeah, so we have this, well, we're designing for a stage. Stage that. Cost estimates was in a month and then start. Finish our financing. Planning. And get a team of financing. Actually, we have a plan for it, so the financing is maybe take 2 months. And then. So that goes.
and what would the timeline of that be?
Well, if everything goes the way I would like it to go. We will either be in construction by the end of the summer, or we'll be planning for a spring construction season. So that's the,
But it would be.
yeah, because we have the design now. We just need the estimate so that I can take that back. So we're going to apply for what's called the section 101 loan, and it's a little bit, it's a HUD funded loan that would pay back over 3 years. We get some funding, and that's that we have to go through, but we are able to leverage our city to get that loan, and I've already talked to the HUD folks. So they know it's coming, they just told me don't bother to get the process. So that's just a process that we have to go through, and some of that is out of our control because we're dependent on HUD. That approve that.
And then once we know we have the financing, then we can put start putting the bid package together. We'll probably do a little bit of that while. So that we can hopefully hit the ground running with going out to bid and get a contractor. Hopefully they bid with the estimates. The challenging part in this construction, the period that we're in where everything costs more than you think it's gonna cost, even when you account for something that's gonna cost.
So 2025 is gonna be a big year for the arts and cultures and,
There's a lot,
yeah,
we have several new businesses. that are coming in.
yeah.
Plans for a barcade. That's a rule, a bunch of two bookstores. What's that? So yeah, that's what I'm saying, so there's like a used bookstore and a new bookstore. Right. Both owned by Zach. In restaurant, I don't know that much about it, I just have to speak. What else? we got? There's several housing developments that are in the works, so. Those take a long time, right, so not 10 years, I hope, but not looking for it. But I would say the average housing development size of a big one will be in 5 years. And this financial market is challenging for production costs are so high, interest rates are so high, but we about 200 units that are being planned for right now with downtown area. So that's a lot of office. So we have enough, and that's the push that the city is making right now, is to encourage developers to look at all of our empty office space in the upper floors. We do have some incentives to encourage, and we're working with some other quasi governmental agencies called Mass Housing and Mass Housing Partnership. Technical assistance to things like having an architect come in and look at one of those processes without a developer who's ready to go and like just pay for that, so that you can then say to a developer, yep, this is feasible, look, we have the drawings or some concept drawings. So, because not every building is gonna be feasible for housing. You have to be able to fit in those natural elements that can apartments. A lot of change coming, but
But yeah. We got this change. I think next year we have some organizations really. So Stratton is gonna celebrate 100 years, we've been celebrating 100 years, and Brown's gonna open, if the state is being built, it sounds like. 2025 is a year. To celebrate, right? Yeah,
it's just a lot to look forward to.
yeah, but leverage. Yeah, but it's leveraging it, right? It's how do we
Make it work. Yeah.
well, but tell the story. Yeah, it's storytelling, yeah, so it's how there's so many levels to it, right? We can use it to inspire art we want to create or produce, but it's a way of bringing people into Fitchburg and getting a collective audience, I guess, yeah.
Well, and all of this activity, and all of the interesting arts and culture things that are happening are, they're hooks that we use for developers. It generates interest. For developers want to develop in areas with interesting. This is a place where interesting things are happening. And we have a university of course, so there's like populations, there's overpopulations, there's everything in between those two.
So, I mean, maybe this is my thread, then how does it? Then is this an opportunity for us to start creating spaces where? It's not just the creatives, but we can intersect with all these people who are coming. I don't know, I mean, we've kind of talked about different things and I threw out ideas about third places, but I mean, are those places that you go to? Are they places you seek? Are they? Or, I mean, I'm also curious, I mean, we don't have all night to dig into this, but like after. I feel like our first place is our home. We all got very cozy in our homes 4 years ago, and I feel it like I used to go out to the theater all the time. I used to do all the things. And now I sometimes feel like it's pulling teeth to go to things that I used to love. And yeah, I don't know. So I'm throwing a lot of things out there, but I don't want to do all the talking tonight, so. But I know, as we start to create spaces in the city, are there things that you're looking for? Are there things you're hoping that will attract? Whether it's through your work or your art or just your own social well-being that you're hoping to find, attract, or build.
It's what I'm saying. This is just pure that. But has like greenhouse like pavilions we can go sit in, and it's like nice all year round, with this glass, you know. Nature and the sun, but shelter. We can just kind of hang out and I have an area where food trucks of various sorts can park. There could be picnic tables or whatever around them, like indoor outdoor pavilions. So a combination of indoor outdoor space, but as much like greenhouse, like glass type thing we could set up so that you enjoy it. That. And have the informality with the food trucks there, like, oh, God, you know, this informal. Kind of thing, push that to. So it's like really a community hangout that's.
So something like the pavilion that's at Sima Park, have you been there?
Do they have, I mean, I've only been inside their lodge house.
I would say, no, but no, I'm just saying, so if you take that and then put it with like, I'm like Sour Hill. Yeah. That's true.
Say. Oh, it's a check out. It's paid. But yeah,
They have the best Stella sandwiches.
okay, well, that's what we're talking about.
Although they have a good,
Oh, yeah.
They're a sort of a micro grocer.
Exactly.
Local.
That's why.
Like local.
Gift shop,
Like,
yes.
or gift shop.
like they all. We have all the things, but not all of them in the same place.
But yeah, what's nice about my number 3 is in the winter you can eat in the greenhouse, but then and the summer you can go sit out by the. Yeah, and there is actually a trail. It's the.
Bike trail. That goes from downtown Leominster, almost downtown Leominster, almost downtown. It ends at 4th Street, so there's another project that actually will start in 2025. That'll be phase 2 of the rail trail, which will be a 25-foot bridge that goes from 2nd Street near Water Street, crosses over the train tracks and the river, and then lands right next to the commuter station. Then you'll be able to
Get off the train.
get off the train, and you won't be able to, there isn't a bike lane there, so what we're trying to figure out how to connect. From there to Boulder Drive, or there is a bike lane on Boulder Drive. There's a lot of connections that still need to be made, so right now we kind of bike lanes that are just on stretches of road that don't.
There's all, I mean, I haven't checked out.
Oh, it's great.
It is.
And then isn't Oliver's Cafe, it's not really a greenhouse, but it's right on the river and there's another coffee house. Yeah, that's in.
So the challenge at Riverfront Park is that it's also used for festivals. So
couldn't probably create a permanent structure in the middle, because then it would be hard one to. Or not where the stages are already. But then there's Gateway Park, there's a lot of.
Very, that's that nice, it has a little tiny little.
Theater.
Yeah.
So actually, Low Park has to be sort of redesigned.
Well, that's next week? Isn't that next week? Low Park, we're talking Low Park.
It's a Low Park.
And then Coxall has a. Well,
Still has a stone house.
Stone House, and
But that's a little more challenge, like if you're somebody that doesn't have a car and
That's
it's
true.
downtown. Right. It's hard to get this. Well. And it's free. Yeah.
there's a lot of parks, like I feel like
You have 31 parks.
31.
Yes. That would be accepted by the city. It's an official park that needs. Because we have.
And they're not all.
Some are pocket, some are not.
Some have been be done, but. Sheldon,
Yes, that's Gateway Park.
that's been mostly be done.
Yeah, that's got a nice little. So.
A good walking. Good walking.
I remember that, yes, that was fun.
Yeah, and then you have like the train in the background, but yeah. Yeah. It is great, yeah. Yes.
And summer you get Dairy Queen over,
So circling back to the third places, one that wasn't on the list that I would consider one of my third places. I find like I do, periodic volunteering and it's something that's a bit of a third place for me.
Right.
Yeah. I don't think you mentioned place for ball. And that would be one of my first. Well, they have self-serving.
I agreed the last of River Styx. I'm not a huge beer drinker either, but that was
Definitely.
especially in 2020 because they had outdoor seating. They had food trucks. You could bring your dog. You could.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Hollis Hill is.
He's definitely stepping up.
Yes. Yeah. That's,
It used to be Marshall Ford.
have you spent about? Yeah. They have a big, it's my favorite, because they always sponsor my birthday, they have a big sunflower festival every year. And you can go pick your own sunflowers. Yeah, and they have it free dairy and pumpkin, yeah, so it's, and you can feed the animals. Yeah.
Like kids are little.
Huh? Yeah.
That is another.
Oh, yeah, but it's like, it's actually Lunenburg, it's like kind
Just feel.
on the side of town. It's like.
So as we have people move into this community and we want to pull people from the community into these living spaces, we have spaces we can recommend. But one of these places downtown. Yes,
I think that the arts directory would be a really. If all of the local restaurants, if all of those third places are in the directory, and you can look and be like, oh, I wanna go. Like, I wanna go see a movie, oh, there's a local movie theater, in there, or,
actually, there's a question, I mean, because I am trying to think of a way to.
Yes.
Yeah. But, yeah. But as I'm trying to think of how to breathe new life into this year, maybe that is something rather, I mean, we do group people according to what, but if we in a place. This is where you know you can go, I mean, this is where I live, where you know you can go right, or this is a place where you can go.
I think having, yeah, it would be great to have something.
You know, you can, or that's looking for. Open mic, yeah, where maybe you can call it third place, yeah. Yeah, yes. Yeah, well, we're all over the place, we're all off, but.
This is not directly, but it is, my first thing is the outdoors.
So true.
But it's typically all around and new things every day, but the quarries, and I'm curious, since you're here too, that is a space spot. I go up there, there's community, there are you think big building, where's this? The quarries here.
Old Stone Hill Park.
So many people do very interesting things, sometimes there's state students up there doing interesting projects of photography, of people from not. But it's a place that you usually wouldn't know, not, you know, barely. And it's a destination spot, and the owner of the gallery. He does that.
Spring in the fall.
I'll do the tour, but I had family members saying, "Oh, what the fuck over in there?" And I'm like, "How do you know about?"
I think he's doing it again in May. But the nice thing about the Rock Walk is that you get this whole history. Actually, there's this great story that.
You know, Pete once offered to do a special rock walk for our board, and I never took him up on that, but we. Oh, maybe
Yes,
do one for the stewards. Yeah.
Part, but not an official, right, because of official liability. Well, liability, but then also. What happens, and normally we would say you can't spray paint something in a cup, right? So better for it to be a private, it's a public space, it's owned by the city, but it's not an official park, and we don't want the parks board to be.
Yeah.
On the control, and then deciding what. So it's almost more like a. It's like a trail stewards kind of a part. Yeah. And stewards that continuing to make improvements on the trail. They had to go through the city because it was city park. So we applied. To just take.
That is definitely our space, not just for what it is now, but you just think of how many buildings have been built with that.
Big granite wall retaining walls everywhere in Fitchburg and all of them.
All and beyond.
And they were union. Anyway, yes.
Say,
Yeah. Questions. Sites for the place and sites for the. First off, on the top of the theaters, do you know about any other movie theater that's planning to do in Pittsburgh after something else happens? Whether it's like showing, big budget features or even smaller things that you've seen before the office.
So. We only found out this week that, or maybe into last week, I just heard through Facebook that it's closing, and I think that everybody found that out the same way, so he's closing at the end of this month, which is. So that's a surprise to everybody, so nobody has had time to plan or even have a internal conversation,
Talks about the.
I'm sorry, the what?
The closing of
Close.
Cinema World.
Oh, yep, yep. Oh yeah, apparently that same guy owns the Gardner Cinemas. I did not realize that.
And he's not a young, or at this point, it's like, I think he's just ready to.
I think
The work is a lot.
How could you 70?
You're not a young So, honestly, I'd be very surprised. if and take that over because it's an industry that. So you guys will do things like this. Yeah, I really appreciate him and his willing. Hey, and. It would, I mean, anybody that. Yeah.
Joe.
Do that.
I've already reached out to the owner. But I don't know. Based on everything I've heard, through the Facebook world. And what I know about the industry, I think it'd be very challenging to go for that. I used to own a bunch of movie theaters, for those that don't know. Yeah. Great business.
But there's still, this is only second information, so there's still. A long-term goal to do a historic renovation and somehow that. I have no idea.
It's just a box that comes down.
Right. I mean, honestly, the age for black, it's a box, right?
Thomas, did you have one more question?
So. How often do you think that seeing people in here, just treating conversations, certain other important body? How often approach that?
I think they're linked and it basically comes down to when can somebody be here to open the space. I think one thing that's been nice toward that is Derek and his interns have been hanging out here on Fridays. So that just is, it doesn't necessarily help my productivity a lot, but.
Friday night here.
Well, that's it, Friday night we're having it, but certainly anytime we have an event, but I guess you're saying outside of events. But
I think it happens, like I've been watching, just, when I'm here working. That there are times when, like, people, there's a lot of people who don't. Know that this is an art space or that it's open to them. They'll always wander in and they're like, oh, what's going on? And once they know, then it's like a space that really is. Not just a third space, but like a resource for arts within the community,
yeah,
for all ages.
but to be fair, it is tricky, just like, it's. In terms of being like, if we're here during the work day, how can we be open for people who are working? And I mean, it's something we have to work on, and maybe that's an opportunity to have more volunteers who can come here and just have the door open for us until we can staff it, but certainly we're open to having more of it, because it's just, I think it's just our bandwidth and capacity, but I mean.
There have been times where people have shown up and we've had just like these completely unplanned.
Yeah. Well, even just this weekend, Alpha is doing a community gallery show at the museum, and they did their art drop off here so they could have it juried. And it was just a bunch of Alpha instructors and students who came in here and just, I think in that passing, even though it was miserable weather on Saturday, just it became that de facto. So can we do more to let people know about it? Absolutely, but there's no restrictions on how we want to make that happen.
Want to do a time check? It's 8
Yeah,
o'clock.
well, okay.
Okay, I didn't know if there was some question.
Yeah.
That's. But I could doing classes or reading together groups to do nature journal. Oh, no, that's really, that's really fun with me. We have talked a lot about doing plein air stuff, so, there's a conversation here. Going out and,
Your wife, Heather.
Have a really.
right, and about drawing and painting some. Maybe we have painting for.
And actually, I mean, I didn't, but I know when Ellen DiGeronimo was active on our board, like 2008, 9, 10. I think she did for when she was the downtown coordinator. She had paint-ins, and she did one where she just had people set up on street corners and they painted the buildings. She did one specifically of H.M. Francis building. She did one of Crocker Fields. She did one of the churches, like maybe it was the rivers. But yeah, so I think there's a lot of, so yeah, it's interesting that outdoors has been a common theme. Yeah.
Unique assets, we're this very urban
Yeah,
center with a lot of rural
Yeah.
surroundings. Really, you can be in the urban center and get to the woods in about 5 minutes.
Have the river, yeah, and then you have the hills, yeah.
One of our biggest challenges is figuring out how to unlock the river in places because it's behind it.
Right, it's kind of.
Factory is built right up to the river and hid the river from downtown. There's only so much we can do there.
That's such a, my sister works for the city of Springfield, and I know that's one of their big complaints is that they built 91 blocking the Connecticut River from the city skyline. So it's interesting.
That's true too, but. We train students.
Yes.
Markers and.
Yeah. That's a great group.
It's a great.
And the trail map. that you can trail guide that has all of them. I mean, most of the trails. And then I think you can actually. Pull it.
Thanks.
I was gonna say, I have 2 theaters in my church. So.
So
One
you-
theater in. Yeah, I got, third, fourth, and
Like,
sixth.
Which I think, sidebar, I do, regardless, I do think churches are like. Just how they're built to be places to gather and. Have a chase,
right.
and they're beautiful. And the dogma aside, just how they're places where people come to read, where people come to join together.
There's a
Yeah.
conversation about how churches are. Spaces with your religious person. Conversation about how that's changing and why that's changing. Yeah. How to tap into them.
Yes, all right. That's pretty good. Well, thank you everyone for staying. Thank you, and we'll next meeting is the mayor, right? Anybody have strawberries before I pack them up? Strawberry?